My wife of 10 years cheated on me with our neighbor, then secretly sold our family home for $450, $0, forged my signature on a legal agreement, and now she's claiming I owe her half the profit, despite the house being in my name. While I just found out she secretly withdrew $200, $0 from our joint account to fund a new life with her affair partner. Hello, everyone. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now let's begin the video, using a throwaway for obvious reasons with certain specifics modified to preserve anonymity. I never thought I'd be the guy sitting here, writing all this down, but I guess life has a way of throwing curveballs when you least expect it. The worst part, it all started with something so small I almost didn't notice it at first. You know that feeling when something's off but you can't quite put your finger on it? That was me. My name's David, and I've been married to Lisa for 10 years. We had a decent life, 2 kids, a nice house, steady jobs. Nothing extraordinary, but it worked. Until it didn't. It all began about 3 months ago. Lisa started acting weird, secretive, evasive, always looking over her shoulder, texting late at night. At first, I thought she was just stressed about work or something. She's a bitch when she's stressed, snapping at everyone, avoiding me. But then I noticed her phone was always locked, and she'd hide it whenever I came near. Small things, really, but enough to make me suspicious. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, so I kept quiet, watching her. One night I decided to check her phone while she was in the shower. Not proud of it, but I was desperate for answers. I found a string of text messages with our neighbor, Mark. Nothing overtly explicit, but enough to tell me they'd been talking, flirty messages, inside jokes, plans to meet up. My stomach dropped. I read more and saw them talking about spending time together, keeping it secret, and even references to what we're doing. I couldn't believe it. My wife, my partner of 10 years, was cheating on me with the guy next door. That was the moment everything changed. I felt a mixture of rage, betrayal, and heartbreak. I wanted to confront her right then and there, but I knew I needed to gather more evidence. I couldn't just accuse her blindly, so I started digging. I checked our bank accounts, looked at the recent transactions, and that's when I saw it, $200 missing from our joint account, withdrawn in cash over several days. I couldn't believe it. She'd taken that much money without telling me, probably to fund her new life with Mark. I was furious. How could she do this? How could she betray me, cheat with our neighbor, then steal our money? It felt like the ground was crumbling beneath my feet. I remembered all the times she'd lied, the moments she'd dismissed my concerns, the way she'd always been so bitchy when I asked her about her odd behavior. It was all a lie. She'd been planning this for months, maybe longer. I decided I had to confront her. I waited until she was out running errands. When she got back, I called her into the living room, my hands trembling. She looked at me with that fake smile, that look of innocent trouble she always put on when she thought she was fooling everyone. I told her I knew everything. About her affair, the money, the house sale, the forged signature. Her face went pale for a second, then she started lying, saying I was paranoid, that I was imagining things, that Mark was just a friend helping her with some project. She had the nerve to claim she never cheated, that I was overreacting. I looked at her, feeling a cold rage building inside. I knew she was lying, but I also knew I needed proof. I told her I'd been checking the bank, the house deeds, everything. Her excuses were weak. She said she was just stressed, that I was paranoid, that I didn't trust her. She called me controlling, insecure, but I saw through her. I saw the bitchy smile she put on when she was lying. That moment of betrayal cut deep. I trusted her for 10 years, and now I saw her for what she really was, a liar, a cheat, a thief. The emotional roller coaster hit me hard. I was angry, hurt, and deeply disappointed. How could she do this to me? To our family? It felt like my entire world was crashing down and I was left standing there, feeling helpless and betrayed. I wanted to scream, break something, make her feel as small as she made me feel. But I also knew I had to stay calm, to think clearly. I couldn't let her see me broken, not yet. That night I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, trying to process everything. I kept replaying her lies, her sneaky texts, the money she stole. I felt a strange mix of sadness and fury. I'd loved her once, but now I saw her for what she was. A lying, manipulative woman who'd betrayed everything we had. I knew I had to decide what to do next. Confront her again, call the police, or just get out. The options swirled in my mind, but one thing was clear: my life was never going to be the same. The next few days were a blur of planning and trying to stay sane. I couldn't sleep much, constantly replaying everything I'd uncovered. Every time I looked at her, I saw her mask, her fake smile, her bitchy tone when she was lying. It made me sick. She'd spent years convincing everyone she was the perfect wife, the perfect mother, but behind that veneer was a con artist. I felt like I'd been living in a lie, and now I was just waking up to the nightmare. I decided I needed to get some concrete proof of her illegal activities: selling the house, forging my signature, and that huge withdrawal from our account. I started digging into the house sale first. I found out she'd secretly contacted a real estate agent, listed the house without telling me, and managed to sell it for $450, $0. The kicker: she'd done all this behind my back, forged my signature on the sale agreement, and transferred the money into her own account. I couldn't believe she'd gone that far. The house was in my name, so legally I had the right to the money. But she was claiming I owed her half of the profit, despite the fact she'd sold it without my knowledge or consent. When I confronted her about the sale, she just shrugged and said she'd done what she had to do, that I was too controlling, and that she'd needed to start a new life. She said she was tired of waiting around, and that I never paid enough attention to her. That was her usual line: blame me for everything. But then I dug deeper. I found evidence that she'd forged my signature on the legal agreement. The signatures didn't match mine. I brought this up during our next argument, and she just laughed, calling me paranoid. "You're imagining things. You're seeing shadows," she said, rolling her eyes. She then claimed she'd sold the house because she needed a fresh start, that I was just too blind to see she was unhappy. Her words felt like a slap. She was trying to gaslight me, make me doubt my own judgment. Meanwhile, the money she withdrew, $200, was gone. I tracked the transactions online. She transferred most of it into an account under a different name, then used it to fund her new life with Mark. I found out she'd been secretly saving for this for months, maybe longer. She'd been planning her escape, and I was just the fool left behind. All those years, all that trust, wasted. I was furious, but I also felt numb. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind. How could she be so evil? How could she betray me, cheat, steal, then lie about everything? I wanted to scream, to break something, but I knew I had to keep my head. I decided I'd gather all this evidence: bank statements, the forged signatures, proof of the house sale, and then confront her again with everything laid out. The day I gathered the evidence, I felt a strange mix of relief and dread. Relief because I finally knew the truth, and dread because I knew the confrontation would be brutal. I sat her down in the living room, laying out the documents I'd collected. Her face went pale when she saw the bank statements, the fake signature, the listing of the house. She stammered, trying to deny everything, but I cut her off. "You lied to me," I said coldly. "You cheated, you stole, and you sold our house behind my back. You're claiming I owe you half the profit, even though the house was in my name. And you withdrew $200, $0 from our account to fund your new life. How could you do this to us?" She started crying, but it wasn't genuine. It was fake tears, the kind she used when she wanted to manipulate people. She said she was just trying to survive, that I never appreciated her, that I was too busy working or ignoring her. She spun this whole story about how she was miserable, how she needed to get away from me because I didn't listen or care enough. She kept insisting she was innocent, that I was overreacting, that she loved me. But her words rang hollow. I felt my stomach turn. Everything I thought I knew about her was a lie. The woman I'd married was a con artist, a liar, a thief. My mind was racing. What do I do now? Do I fight her in court? Do I just leave and cut my losses? The betrayal hit so deep that I was questioning everything about myself, about our life together. I'd trusted her blindly. I'd believed she was the love of my life, and now I saw her for what she really was: a manipulative, selfish woman who destroyed everything we'd built. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the events, the lies, the betrayal. I felt a mix of anger, sadness, and a strange sense of relief that I finally knew the truth. But the emotional toll was heavy. I'd loved her once, and Now I was faced with the painful reality that I had to start over. I knew this wasn't going to be easy, but I also knew I couldn't stay in the illusion any longer. I had to make decisions, fast, and figure out how to protect what was left of my life. As I sat there in the dark, I realized that trust, once broken, is almost impossible to rebuild. But I also understood that I had to stand up for myself. I couldn't let her manipulate me anymore. The betrayal had cut so deep that I knew I'd never see her the same way again. I was hurt, yes, but also angry enough to fight for what was mine. This was just the beginning of what I knew would be a long, messy fight for justice and for my peace of mind. Over the next couple of weeks, everything started to unravel even further. I couldn't ignore the mounting evidence, and after confronting Lisa again, it became clear she was doubling down on her lies. She kept insisting she was the victim, that I was overreacting, and that she was just trying to find her happiness. Yeah, right, she kept calling me controlling, paranoid, and told me I was ruining everything by accusing her without proof. But I had the proof now, and no amount of her bitchy tears or fake apologies was going to change that. I decided I needed to get legal advice. I hadn't been involved in any of the house sale or the forged signature, but I knew she'd been scheming behind my back. I contacted a lawyer who specialized in property and family law. His name's Robert, and he's been around the block a few times. When I showed him the documents, his face tightened. He told me that legally I had a strong case. The house was in my name and she forged my signature, an obvious fraud. The sale could be reversed and she could face criminal charges for that. The money she withdrew, he said, was also a big red flag. But here's the kicker. She's claiming I owe her half the sale profit. That's what she told the lawyer, that I was refusing to give her what's rightfully hers. The nerve. The house was in my name, and I had all the proof she forged my signature. I told Robert I wanted to file a restraining order to keep her from doing any more damage. He advised me to do it immediately, just in case she tried to drain any more accounts or sell anything else. Meanwhile, I started to dig into her financials more deeply. I found out she opened a new bank account under a different name, funded it with some of the stolen money, and was planning her escape. I also discovered she'd been in contact with Mark constantly, texts, calls, even a few meetings arranged under the radar. It was clear she'd been planning this for months, maybe longer. She was a master manipulator, making me believe she was the perfect wife, all the while secretly preparing her getaway. One day I caught her trying to transfer more money out of our joint account. I stopped her, showed her the bank alerts, and she lost it. Started yelling, calling me possessive, controlling, and said I was ruining her life. Her bitchy tone was in full force. She claimed I was paranoid, that she was just trying to get her own independence, and that I was holding her back. I told her to stop lying too. Stop playing the victim, and that I had enough evidence to take her to court. I also told her that I was going to file for divorce and seek full custody of the kids because I couldn't trust her anymore. That was the breaking point for her. She screamed at me, called me a jealous maniac, and stormed out of the house. I could hear her crying and yelling on the phone with Mark, probably trying to come up with a new plan. I felt a strange mix of relief and dread. Relief because I finally had the truth out in the open, and dread because I knew this was going to get uglier before it got better. While all this was happening, I started to realize how much she'd manipulated me emotionally. Her bitchy attitude, her constant gaslighting, her lies. She'd made me doubt myself for so long. But now I saw everything clearly. She used me, stolen from us, and was now trying to spin it all around to make me look like the bad guy. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind for so many years. I also learned that she'd secretly been planning her new life. With Mark, from the moment she started acting strange. The house sale, the forged signature, the withdrawal, all part of her escape plan. And I was just a pawn in her game. It's funny how someone you trust with your life can turn out to be a complete stranger in disguise. I felt hurt, betrayed, and angry at myself for not seeing it sooner. But I also knew I had to be smart. I started gathering all the evidence I could, screenshots of messages, bank statements, the sale agreement, everything. I wanted to be prepared for the legal fight ahead. I also set up a protective order to keep her away from me and the kids. I couldn't let her manipulate us anymore. This was only the beginning, and I knew I had to stay strong if I was going to come out of this with some dignity intact. The legal process moved faster than I expected, thanks to Robert, my lawyer. Once I handed over all the evidence, bank statements, forged signatures, the house sale documents, things started to escalate. The moment I filed for a restraining order and legal separation, Lisa's bitchy veneer cracked completely. She was furious, calling me every name. In the book, accusing me of trying to control her, of being jealous, of ruining her new beginning. Her voice was filled with that typical bitchy tone she always used when she was losing her grip. I remember the day she stormed into the house, her face twisted with rage, yelling about how I was destroying her life. She ranted about how she'd done everything for us, that I was just too blind to see her sacrifices. I told her she was a liar, that she'd betrayed everything we had and that I had all the proof. She just sneered and said I was jealous of her happiness, that I was possessive, and that she was done with this whole charade. That was when she made her biggest mistake. She admitted she'd sold the house. Not directly, but her words betrayed her. She said, "You think you're entitled to all that money? I sold the house to start fresh. I don't care what you say. You're too controlling." I felt my blood boil. She'd been lying all along, trying to spin it like I was the bad guy. But I had the proof now. And I knew she was lying her ass off. From that point, the legal wheels turned quickly. The court ordered her to return the house sale proceeds, and I filed for full custody of the kids. I couldn't trust her around them anymore, knowing what she was capable of. She fought me every step of the way, trying to claim she was the victim, but her lies kept falling apart. Meanwhile, I was working on getting my life back together, piece by piece. She kept insisting she was the one who suffered, that I was harassing her, and that I was ruining her future. Her bitchy attitude was on full display. She was furious, bitter, and desperate. She tried to manipulate the situation by crying, but it was all fake. I could see through her now. She was a master at hiding her true self, but the evidence was too overwhelming. One night she called me, her voice shrill, accusing me of trying to take everything from her. I told her to stop lying, that I had everything documented, and that I was going to fight to get what's rightfully mine. She yelled back that I was just jealous because she's leaving, and hung up in a huff. I felt a strange sense of victory, knowing that I finally had the upper hand, but the emotional toll was heavy. Every day I felt like I was living in a nightmare. I trusted her, loved her, and now I was fighting to save what little was left of my dignity. I started to realize how much she'd manipulated me. Her bitchy attitude, her constant lying, her sneaky moves. She'd been planning this for months, maybe even longer. She turned our life into a complete mess, and I was just the dumb husband who didn't see it coming. Despite all the chaos, I kept my focus. I knew I had to be smart, patient, and relentless. The truth was on my side, and I was determined to get justice. I had to protect myself and the kids from her manipulations and lies. I started documenting everything, her calls, her texts, her financial moves. I also started to prepare emotionally for what was ahead. I knew this wasn't over yet, but I was ready to fight for what was mine and for my sanity. In the end, I've learned a lot about trust, betrayal, and the importance of staying sharp. Women like Lisa don't change. They just hide their true selves until they can get away with more. I'm not bitter anymore, just cautious. I know now that I can't let anyone manipulate me again, not even someone I loved for 10 years. I'll get through this mess, but I'll never forget what she did. And if there's one thing I want anyone reading this to take away, trust your instincts, check the details, and never let a bitchy wife fool you twice. The months that followed were a whirlwind of court dates, negotiations, and trying to rebuild some semblance of normalcy. I spent every free moment poring over legal documents, making sure I had everything in order. The house sale, the forged signature, the bank withdrawals, everything was documented meticulously. I knew Lisa was trying to spin her story, but I had the proof to shut her down. Still, the emotional toll was immense. Every time I saw her bitchy smirk or heard her dismissive tone, I felt a surge of rage mixed with deep disappointment. The court finally scheduled a hearing to settle the house sale, the money she claimed I owed her, and custody arrangements. I was nervous but confident. I had all the evidence and I was ready to fight for what was rightfully mine. When I showed up in court, Lisa's face was a mix of arrogance and desperation. She tried to argue that she needed the money because she was unhappy and that I was trying to control her. Her tone was bitchy, dismissive, as if she was the victim here. But I didn't buy it. The judge looked over the documents, asked questions, and listened to both sides. When my lawyer presented the evidence of the forged signature, the house sale, and the withdrawals, Lisa's face lost some of its bravado. She tried to deny everything, but her voice cracked when she was confronted with the proof. The court ruled in my favor, ordering her to return the sale proceeds, and declared the house legally mine. No half-share, no bullshit. The judge also granted me full custody of the kids, citing her pattern of deception and manipulation. Hearing that was a relief, but also a slap in the face. I'd fought so hard for my kids and my life, and now I knew I had to protect them from her bitchy, manipulative ways. I could see how she was trying to spin it all to her advantage, still insisting she was the victim, still crying fake tears, but I'd had enough. I told her she was done lying, that the court saw through her manipulations, and that she was going to face the consequences. After the court hearing, Lisa's attitude only got worse. She refused to accept the ruling, calling it unfair, claiming I was trying to ruin her. She started spreading rumors, trying to paint herself as the wronged wife, the victim of my controlling ways. But I knew I had the truth on my side. The evidence was too overwhelming. My lawyer advised me to stay calm and let the legal process run its course. Meanwhile, I began the difficult process of healing. I realized that trusting someone blindly was a mistake I wouldn't repeat. Lisa had been a master manipulator, bitchy, lying, stealing, and ultimately destroying everything we built. I started to focus on my kids and rebuilding my life. I found a new place to live, far away from her toxic attitude, and began to put the pieces back together. It wasn't easy, but I knew I had to do it for me and for my children. Looking back, I see how much I've learned. Trust is fragile and betrayal can come from the most unexpected places. Lisa's bitchy attitude, her lies, her manipulations, they all came crashing down. I've come to realize that I don't need someone who treats me like an enemy or a pawn. I deserve honesty, respect, and loyalty, and I'll never let anyone manipulate me again. Most importantly, I've learned that revenge isn't always about revenge itself. It's about standing up for yourself, protecting what's yours, and not letting the lies and betrayal define you. I'm stronger now, more cautious, but also more hopeful. Life after betrayal can be dark, but it can also be a new beginning. I'm ready for that. And if anyone reading this finds themselves in a similar situation, my advice is simple. Trust your instincts, gather your proof, and fight for what's right. Never let a bitchy wife or anyone else manipulate you into thinking you're the bad guy. Because in the end, the truth always comes out, and justice will follow. Looking back now, I realize how much this whole ordeal has changed. I used to believe in happily ever afters, in the idea that marriage was about trust and loyalty. Lisa's betrayal shattered that illusion. She was a master at hiding her true self, the bitchy, manipulative side that only came out when she was trying to cover her tracks. Her lies, her cheating, her theft, she managed to turn our entire life into a web of deception, all while pretending to be the perfect wife. The hardest part was the emotional fallout. I felt humiliated, betrayed, and angry, but I also felt a strange sense of relief. For years, I had been blind to her true nature, but now I saw everything clearly. I realized I'd wasted so much time, energy, and love on someone who didn't deserve it. The betrayal cut deep, but it also became a catalyst for my growth. One thing I've learned is that you can't trust blindly. People are good at hiding their true intentions, especially those who are bitchy and manipulative. I should have seen the signs earlier, her secretive behavior, her lies, the way she dismissed my concerns. But I was caught up in the illusion of our life together. Now I focus on rebuilding. I spend more time with my kids, making sure they know they're loved and protected. I've started therapy to work through the emotional scars, and I've found a new place where I can breathe and start fresh. I no longer see her as my wife. She's just a woman who betrayed me in every way possible. I've come to accept that some people are just toxic, and the best thing you can do is walk away and protect yourself. For anyone out there going through something similar, my biggest piece of advice is this: trust yourself. When something feels off, don't ignore it. Gather proof, stand your ground, and don't be afraid to fight for what's right. Women like Lisa don't change. They just hide their true selves until they can get away with more. Recognize the signs early and don't let anyone manipulate or control you. In the end, I've learned that true strength lies in facing the truth, no matter how painful it is. It's about reclaiming your life, your dignity, and your peace of mind. I may have lost a lot, but I gained clarity, resilience, and a new outlook. Life after betrayal isn't easy, but it's possible to come out stronger on the other side. And that's exactly what I intend to do.